The stale, recycled air of the cubicle farm was my atmosphere. My name is Jake, and for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, my world was a 30-inch monitor, the constant hushed clatter of a dozen other keyboards, and the flat, artificial glow of fluorescent lights. I was a data analyst for a logistics company called Synergo, a cog in a vast humming machine of efficiency. My life was a spreadsheet, predictable, orderly, and utterly devoid of color. I found a strange comfort in the clear-cut boundaries of binary code and the definitive answers hidden within raw data. The chaos of the outside world, with its unpredictable people and messy emotions, was something I actively avoided. Even my apartment, a beige box on the third floor of a beige complex, reflected the monochrome nature of my existence. My weekends were spent in the soft blue glow of my gaming PC, embarking on predictable, pixelated adventures where the rules were defined and the outcomes, with enough skill, were guaranteed. I had a few online friends, my guild, but our conversations rarely strayed from the game mechanics of the day. I was by all accounts fine, and fine was the cage I had carefully constructed for myself, brick by anxious brick. The first crack in the foundation of that cage appeared on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday. My older sister, Sarah, a fiercely compassionate and slightly chaotic force of nature who worked as a veterinarian technician, called. Her voice was strained, a mix of excitement and anxiety. Jake, hey, listen, I have news. Big news. I minimized my work spreadsheet. Yeah, did you finally beat Mark at fantasy football? Bigger, she said. My unit got the call. I'm being deployed. 9 months, overseas with the guard. The news hit me like a physical blow. Sarah was my only real tether to the world outside my carefully managed routines. We had dinner every other Sunday. She was the one who dragged me to the occasional movie, who checked in, who reminded me I was a person, not just an employee. Sarah, wow. Are you okay? It's what I signed up for. I'm proud to go, but I'm scared, Jake. Really scared. Her voice wavered for the first time. And there's the Duke problem. Ah, yes, Duke. The Doberman pinscher, Sarah and her husband Mark's fur baby. Mark was a long-haul trucker, his life a ribbon of asphalt, and he would be on the road more than ever during Sarah's deployment. The problem, therefore, had a name, and it was Duke Dot to me. Duke was a creature of pure, sculpted menace. On my obligatory visits to their house, he was a sleek, black and tan phantom that watched my every move with unsettling intensity. His coat was a terrifyingly slick black with rust-colored accents that looked less like markings and more like warnings. His ears, though not cropped, stood in alert triangles, and his lean, muscular body seemed to be a collection of sharp angles and coiled, explosive power. He didn't bark or jump. He assessed. His dark, intelligent eyes felt like they could see straight through my fine facade to the anxious, timid man cowering beneath. A kennel for 9 months would destroy him, Sarah pleaded, her voice thick with emotion. He's sensitive. He has anxiety. He needs his home, his routine. Jake, he just needs someone to be there, to walk him, feed him, love him. He's a sweetheart, I promise. He's just intense. Intense? Intense? Sarah, he looks like a 4-legged secret agent trained in Krav Maga. I live in an apartment. I can barely keep a cactus alive. This is a military-grade animal. She laughed, a sound that was both comforting and irritatingly dismissive of my very valid concerns. He's a big baby, a Velcro dog. He just wants to be with his person. Look, we'll bring him over this weekend. You two can have a trial run. Please, Jake, for me. How do you say no to your only sister when she's about to be shipped off to a conflict zone? The answer, I discovered, was that you don't. That Saturday, the atmosphere of my beige apartment was irrevocably altered. Sarah and Mark arrived in a whirlwind of duffel bags, dog food, and nervous energy. Duke entered on a leash, his claws clicking a definitive, authoritative rhythm on my hardwood floors. He didn't sniff around curiously like a normal dog. He stood in the center of my living room, his presence completely overwhelming the space. He wasn't just in the room, he commanded it. He turned his head, his dark eyes scanning the sterile environment, and finally landed on me. I felt a jolt of something primal fear, yes, but also a strange, burgeoning respect. This was not a creature that would flop on the floor for a belly rub. This was a partner, a judge, and I was already on trial. "See," Sarah said, kneeling and rubbing his sleek neck. "He's being so good. Duke, this is your home for a little while. Be good for Uncle Jake." The word uncle felt absurdly misplaced. Mark clapped me on the shoulder, a gesture that nearly sent me stumbling. "He needs 2 solid walks a day, Jake. None of that 5-minute stuff. He'll get destructive if he's bored. And firm, loving leadership. You gotta be the pack leader." The phrase pack leader made me want to curl into a ball. They left in another whirlwind of hugs and last minute. Instructions: don't let him on the couch. He knows he's not allowed. His favorite toy is this rope, and he gets 1 cup of food twice a day. And remember, he gets anxious if he's cooped up too long. The door closed, and the silence that descended was different. It was a charged silence, filled with the presence of the powerful animal, now standing between me and my front door. The first week was a masterclass in failure. My life was built on the principle of minimal exertion. My idea of a long walk was a 10-minute trot around the block to the designated sterile pet relief area. Duke had a fundamentally different understanding of the term. He would plant his feet, his body becoming an immovable statue of muscle and will, and refuse to move until we went in the direction he wanted. Our first real walk was less a walk, and more me being dragged for 2 miles while he trotted purposefully ahead, a black arrow shot from a bow. I came home sweaty, my shoulders screaming, my palms raw from the leash. He, on the other hand, seemed invigorated, his eyes bright, his posture regal. He drank an entire bowl of water and then sat by the door, looking at me as if to say that was an acceptable warm-up. When does the real walk begin? I tried to maintain my old routine. I'd sit at my desk, trying to lose myself in the comforting, logical labyrinth of data streams and pivot tables. But I could feel him. He would appear in the doorway and sit, his silent stare a palpable pressure against the back of my neck. He wasn't begging for scraps, he was issuing a summons. The world outside, which I had so carefully filtered through double-paned windows and noise-canceling headphones, was calling him. And through him, it began to call me, a faint, persistent signal I could no longer ignore. The turning point, the moment the cage door truly swung open, came on a Saturday morning. I had been up late, immersed in a virtual world, and I'd foolishly believed I could sleep in. At precisely 7:03 a.m., I was awakened not by an alarm, but by a cold, wet nose being pressed insistently into my palm. I groaned, swatted vaguely at the air, and pulled the covers over my head. A moment of blessed silence was followed by a sudden, violent tug. The entire duvet was yanked off the bed and onto the floor with a single, powerful motion. Duke stood. There, the blanket clutched in his mouth, his head tilted. His expression was clear, enough of your nonsense. The sun is up, the world is awake, our business is outside. Defeated, humiliated, and still half asleep, I stumbled out of bed. I clipped on his leash with a sense of grim resignation, expecting another battle of wills. But that morning, something in me broke. The resistance drained away. "Fine," I muttered, my voice raspy with sleep. "You want to lead? Lead? Show me what's so damn important." And he did. He didn't just pull me down the street. He led me on a route I had never taken, a path I must have driven past 1,000 times without seeing. He pulled me away from the sterile, manicured paths of my apartment complex and into a network of older, cracked sidewalks that bordered a forgotten stretch of land along a creek. This was the green belt I'd seen as a shaded, meaningless green blob on Google Maps. As we passed under the canopy of ancient oaks and sycamores, the constant white noise of the city, the distant hum of the highway, the whir of air conditioners faded, replaced by a symphony I had forgotten existed. The chirping of sparrows, the scolding chatter of a squirrel, the rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze, the gurgle of the creek over rocks. The air changed, too. It was no longer the processed, temperature-controlled air of my office or apartment. It was alive, carrying the rich, complex scent of damp earth, decaying leaves, wild mint, and something else, something clean and wild I couldn't name. And Duke changed. His powerful, stalking gait softened to a loose-limbed, joyful trot. His head, usually held high and alert, lowered, his nose becoming a primary sensor glued to the ground, reading a story written in scents that I could never perceive. He'd stop, sniff a particular patch of clover at the base of a tree for a full minute, his entire body quivering with concentration, his tail held straight and still. He was absorbing a narrative, who had passed by, what they'd eaten, their health, their mood. After a thorough reading, he'd move on, satisfied with the chapter he'd just consumed. I found myself, for the first time in my adult life, not just seeing, but looking. I noticed the intricate, delicate architecture of a spiderweb beaded, with morning dew glittering like a necklace of diamonds in the early sun. I saw a flash of brilliant,